I used to think turning 30 would magically sort my life out. Wake up one morning wiser, stronger, unbothered by the stupid choices I made in my 20s. Yeah, that didn't happen. Instead, on the night of my 31st birthday, I sat in the dark kitchen of the house I shared with my husband, Jason, wondering how my life had shrunk into something that didn't even feel like mine anymore. He was upstairs, sleeping like a man who didn't just ruin my birthday dinner in front of his coworkers, who didn't grab my arms so hard the waiter pretended not to see it, who didn't whisper, "You embarrass me every time you open your mouth." I stared at the bruise blooming on my wrist and realized something terrifying. If I didn't leave soon, he'd eventually destroy me. Not physically, emotionally, bit by bit, until there was nothing left. Funny thing? Jason wasn't always like this. When we met 7 years ago, he was the charming, attentive guy who made everyone laugh. The man who cooked for me on our third date and drove 2 hours to meet my parents. The kind of man women online swore didn't exist. But control doesn't show up wearing a warning label. It sneaks in through the little things. I don't like your friends. I'll handle the finances. Maybe don't wear that top. It attracts the wrong attention. By the time you notice the cage, you're already inside it. That night, sitting at the kitchen table, I finally admitted something I'd been avoiding for years. I wasn't living. I was surviving. And survival isn't living. The next morning, Jason acted like nothing happened. He kissed my cheek, grabbed his briefcase, and said, "I'll be late tonight. Don't wait up." I smiled back like a woman carved out of wood. The second the door clicked shut behind him, my hands started shaking, but not from fear. From adrenaline. I opened the hallway closet and dragged out a suitcase I hadn't touched since our last vacation. As I packed, something strange washed over me. A quiet, focused clarity. Like my brain knew this might be my only window. I wasn't taking much. Clothes. My passport. A few old photographs my mom gave me. The flash drive with all my graphic design work, the only thing that still felt like mine. And the small envelope I'd been hiding behind the bookshelf for 2 years. Emergency cash. Every month, 10, 20, sometimes $50 shaved off grocery budgets and lost receipts. Jason never noticed. He didn't look at me closely enough for that. By noon, everything important I owned was zipped inside one suitcase and a backpack. I stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the walls of a house I had decorated but never felt at home in. The silence felt heavy, like the house itself was waiting for me to change my mind. But then my phone buzzed. A message from Jason. Just one word. Well,
No explanation. No greeting.
just that. I didn't need to ask what he meant. Last night, when he'd ruined my birthday dinner, he'd hissed in my ear, "Try leaving me again and you'll regret it." My throat tightened. But then a louder thought cut through everything. If I stay, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. So I turned off my phone, dropped it into the kitchen drawer, grabbed my suitcase, and walked out the front door. Quietly, quickly, like a thief. I wasn't sure where I was going. I just knew it had to be anywhere but here. When the taxi pulled away, I didn't look back. Not once. At the bus station, I bought a ticket to the farthest place I could afford, Harborview, a small coastal town I'd never heard of until that moment. The woman at the ticket counter gave me a tiny smile when handing me the ticket. "New start?" she asked. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Something like that. I didn't know then that Harborview would become the place where my real life finally started. Where I'd meet people who'd change everything. Where I'd uncover secrets about Jason I never saw coming. Where I'd become someone strong enough to come back for the one thing he never expected me to take back. My freedom. But that part of the story comes later. Because first, I had to learn how to stop running. When the bus finally rolled into Harborview, the air smelled like salt and cold wind, the kind that wakes you up faster than coffee. The town looked nothing like the place I'd run from. No polished houses, no perfectly trimmed lawns, no neighbors pretending everything was fine. Just uneven sidewalks, small cafes with handwritten signs, and the sound of gulls screaming over the harbor. For the first time in years, I breathed without feeling watched. I checked into a cheap motel near the water. The door stuck when I pushed it open and the sheets didn't match, but it felt safer than my own home had in a long time. That night, I slept like someone who'd been running for miles. The next morning, I walked around town trying to figure out my next step. I didn't have a long-term plan, only a vague idea that I'd find work, keep my head down, disappear. But Harborview had other plans. I was standing outside a small coffee shop, Marlowe's, when a woman around my age, maybe a little older, bumped into me, nearly spilling her latte. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she said, steadying my arm. "I wasn't looking. Are you okay?" Her eyes were wide, genuinely concerned.
I wasn't used to that.
"Yeah," I said.
Totally fine.
She smiled in a way that made me feel seen, really seen for the first time in years.
I'm Lily, she said.
"You new around here?" "Just got in yesterday," I answered, clutching my backpack a little tighter. "I'm figuring things out." Lily tilted her head. "You running from something?" My heart stopped. For a second, I thought she somehow knew everything. But then she laughed softly.
Relax.
"This town is full of people starting over. It's kind of our thing." I didn't tell her my story, but something in her tone made me believe her.
Come on, she said.
"Let me buy you a coffee. Consider it a Harborview welcome." I hesitated, then nodded. Maybe letting someone be kind to me was a small step toward becoming the person I wanted to be. Inside Marlowe's, everything smelled like cinnamon and roasted beans. The barista nodded at Lily like they were old friends. We sat by the window, and for the first few minutes, we didn't talk much. It felt good not to fill the silence with excuses or apologies. "So," Lily finally said, stirring her drink, "what do you do? For work, I mean."
I'm a graphic designer, he answered.
"Freelance mostly." Her face lit up. "You're kidding. Marlowe's needs someone to redo their entire menu and signage. The owner, my brother, has been complaining about it for months." My eyebrows shot up. "Seriously? Seriously. Wait here." Before I could protest, she hopped up and went behind the counter, whispering something to the man wearing an apron. He looked at me, then nodded. A minute later, she returned. "He wants to meet you tomorrow morning." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. 24 hours ago, I was packing a suitcase in secret, terrified Jason might come home early. Now a stranger was offering me a chance at stability, at a life. "That's really kind," I said quietly. Lily shrugged. "People helped me when I first came here. I just pay it forward." I didn't ask what she'd run from. It didn't matter. Harborview was the kind of place where everyone carried a past but didn't demand to know yours. That night at the motel, I opened my laptop and checked my old email. Big mistake. 27 new messages. All from Jason. The most recent subject line made my skin crawl. "Where are you?" I slammed the laptop shut. I wasn't ready. Not yet. But deep down, I knew something important. Jason wouldn't let me go easily. He loved control too much for that. Still, as I lay in the motel bed, I repeated one thing to myself like a prayer. He can't hurt you if he can't find you. And he won't find you here. At least, that's what I believed. But Harborview was a small town. And secrets, they don't stay hidden for long. The next morning, Harborview greeted me with a kind of sunlight that made the ocean look almost gentle. I walked to Marlowe's early, partly because I didn't want to be late, and partly because I didn't want to stay in that motel room with my thoughts any longer. Lily waved when I approached, her hair tied in a messy bun, a half-finished muffin in her hand. "You look nervous," she said. "I am nervous." "Well, good. Means you care." "Come on, Nate's in the back." Nate, her brother and the owner of the coffee shop, had the posture of someone who never slept more than 4 hours, but still liked his job too much to quit. He gave me a long, assessing look when I walked into the storage room where he was sorting bags of coffee beans. "So you're the designer," he said. I nodded.
Yes.
Yes, I am." He didn't smile, but something in his expression softened. "My sister vouches for you, and she doesn't vouch for many people. Let's see what you can do." He handed me a stack of old menus. They were awful, cluttered fonts, random spacing, colors that made my eyes hurt. "I can fix this," I said before I could stop myself. Nate raised an eyebrow. "Confidence. I like that. You work remote?" "Yes." "Good. Send me drafts when you have them. Payment weekly. Cash or transfer?" "Cash," I said a little too quickly. Nate didn't judge. He simply nodded. "Okay then. We'll start small. If the locals like it, you'll have more work than you'll know what to do with." For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a threat. It felt like possibility. Over the next few days, I fell into a rhythm I hadn't felt since college. I'd wake up early, grab coffee at Marlowe's, sit by the window, and design. People came and went, fishermen, students, tired mothers, old couples with nowhere else to be. No one stared. No one asked where I came from. I existed without fear. And somehow, that was the strangest feeling of all. Lily kept me company whenever she had a break. She talked a lot about the town, about her brother, about her dog who hated everyone except her. She never asked about my husband. She never asked why I'd run. She just let me be. One evening, after closing time, she walked me back to the motel. "You know," she said, kicking a pebble across the sidewalk, "Harborview does this thing. It gives people back parts of themselves they forgot." "What part did it give back to you?" I asked. Lily smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "My voice," she said quietly. I stopped apologizing for existing. I swallowed hard. "Yeah," I whispered. "I think I'm learning that too." She nudged my shoulder gently. "You'll be okay here, you know. This place, it doesn't let you stay broken." I wanted to believe her. And for a moment I did. 3 days later, everything shifted. I returned to the motel to find the receptionist, an older man with a permanent frown, staring at me from behind the counter. "You got a call," he said. My heart slammed into my ribs. "A call?" Guy sounded polite. "Said he was your brother. Wanted to know if you checked in safely." My breath froze. Jason didn't have brothers. And I didn't tell anyone in Harborview my real last name. I swallowed, trying to keep my voice steady. "Well, what name did he ask for?" The receptionist dug through a stack of notes. "Hold on, yeah," he said. "Tell her Michael was worried. Tell her I love her." The world tilted. Jason sometimes called himself Michael when checking into hotels. A stupid habit he thought was fun. And "I love you" wasn't affection. It was a warning. I managed a shaky smile.
Right.
"My brother. Thanks." The receptionist nodded and didn't notice my trembling hands. I made it to my room before my knees gave out. Jason had found a thread.
A direction.
A clue. He was searching. And if he had my location, even just the town, he'd tear the world apart until he found me. I grabbed my suitcase and yanked it onto the bed, ready to repack, ready to run again if I had to. But then my phone, my burner phone, the one I bought in Harborview, the one he shouldn't even know existed, buzzed. One new text. Unknown number. "I'll give you one chance to come home before I come get you." I stared at the screen, my pulse roaring in my ears. I'd tasted freedom. I'd started rebuilding a life. I'd begun to feel like myself again. And he wanted to take it all away. Not this time. Not ever again. But I wasn't strong enough to fight him alone. And Harborview wasn't the quiet escape I thought it would be. It was becoming a battleground. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat on the edge of the motel bed with the burner phone in one hand and my packed suitcase beside me. Every instinct screamed the same thing: run. But running hadn't saved me before. Running just delayed the moment Jason inevitably caught up. If I kept fleeing, I'd spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. I wasn't going to live like prey anymore. The next morning, I walked straight to Marlowe's. Lily noticed immediately that something was wrong. "You look like you saw a ghost," she said quietly. "Something like that." She guided me to a table in the corner. "Talk to me." For a long moment, I just stared at my hands. Then the truth spilled out, haltingly at first, then pouring uncontrollably. I told her about the control, the manipulation, the bruise on my birthday, the threats, the secret money, the escape, the phone call at the motel, the text. When I finished, I expected her to look at me with pity. Instead, Lily's jaw tightened. "You're not going anywhere." "I can't stay here," I whispered. "If he finds this town, if he finds you, he won't find me, and he won't get to you." Her voice trembled with something sharp. "You're not facing this alone. No one can protect me from him," I said. At that moment, someone else pulled out the chair beside me.
Nate.
He had clearly heard everything. "You're not going back to him," he said calmly. "That's not happening." I swallowed. "You don't even know me." "You don't have to know someone to know they don't deserve hell," he replied. Then he added, "You can stay at our place. Motel's too exposed." I shook my head. "I can't drag both of you into this." "You're not dragging us," Lily said. "We're stepping in." I didn't understand why these people cared so much about me. Maybe Harborview really was a town built for second chances. I moved into their guest room that night. Nate double-checked the doors and windows. Lily kept me company, telling ridiculous stories to make me laugh. For the first time since running, I didn't feel alone. But peace never lasts. 2 days later, it happened. We were closing Marlowe's for the night when a familiar car rolled slowly past the window. Black.
Polished.
Expensive. My blood turned to ice. Lily whispered, "Is that?" "Yes." Jason didn't stop. He didn't need to.
He knew I saw him.
And fear, God, fear swallowed me whole. Nate locked the door and pulled down the blinds.
"Police," he said. "Now."
"No," I choked out. "If he knows I'm hiding behind other people, he'll escalate. He always escalates." Lily grabbed my shoulders. "Then what do you want to do?" I didn't know how to answer. But later that night, as we sat around their kitchen table, something inside me shifted. For years, Jason dictated my every move. For years, I bet myself into someone small enough to survive him. If I kept letting him control the narrative, I'd never be free, even if I escaped 1,000 times. "I'm done running," I said finally. My voice shook, but the decision didn't. A strange, fierce calm settled over me. Lily nodded slowly. "Then we end this."
"How?"
I whispered. Nate leaned forward. "By using the one thing men, like that, hate the most." "What's that?" "The truth." We spent the next day preparing. Nate installed cameras outside the house. Lily sat with me while I documented everything, every bruise, every threat, every message, every time Jason controlled my money or movements. I attached the text he sent me. I wrote a formal statement. For the first time, I saw the whole picture laid out. It was worse than I remembered. "This is enough to destroy him," Lily said quietly. I didn't want revenge. I wanted the right to breathe. But with men like Jason, justice and revenge often looked the same. That evening, Nate drove me to the police station. I handed the folder to the officer and gave the calmest, most detailed account of my life I've ever spoken out loud. When I finished, the officer nodded. "We'll take it from here." A weight lifted, slowly, painfully, but undeniably. Jason wasn't arrested immediately. He did something stupid first. He came to Marlowe's. It was early morning. I was behind the counter, organizing menus, when the door chimed and the air shifted. I didn't have to look up to know it was him. "Baby," he said softly. A counterfeit softness. The kind that hides knives. I straightened, but didn't step back. Not this time. He smiled like he owned me. "You made this a lot harder than it needed to be." Before he could take a step, Nate appeared behind me. "You need to leave," Nate said, his voice low. Jason scoffed. "This is between me and my wife." I inhaled sharply. "Ex-wife. The paperwork is filed." His facade cracked. "You think you can walk away from me?" I lifted my phone. "The police already have everything. They're on their way." He froze. For the first time in our entire relationship, he didn't know what to say. Then came the sound of sirens outside. 2 officers stepped in. "Jason Turner? We have a warrant." He tried to argue, but the evidence was overwhelming. The texts, the threats, the years of documented control I had finally exposed. They cuffed him right there in the middle of Marlowe's. As they let him out, He turned to me, eyes full of fury. You think this is over? I held his gaze steady for once. It is for me. And for the first time in my adult life. I meant every word. The next days were painfully quiet. Relief came in waves, mixed with disbelief that it was finally ending. Lily made me tea. Nate checked the house twice a night. Harborview, this strange, broken town full of broken people, held me up until I learned how to stand on my own. One evening, I walked along the harbor alone. The wind was cold, but I didn't mind. It made me feel awake. I realized something simple, but monumental. I wasn't the woman who arrived here with a suitcase and shaking hands. I wasn't the woman he tried to break. I wasn't running anymore. I was rebuilding. And I was finally, beautifully free.